We call it people technology.
Well, it is an extremely important day in the context of the playoff positions and in this league phase of IPL 2021. Our attention lies for now in Dubai. Match 39, Bangalore versus Mumbai. Both these teams have faced defeat at the hands of the Kolkata Knight Riders and the Chennai Super Kings in the restart. And those two teams are playing what's a cliffhanger of an afternoon fixture in Abu Dhabi. This is Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout. We need Sanjay Manjrekar because it's a big day in the IPL, and Carlos Brathwaite, this is what he wakes up at 4 a.m. for. At least today seemed more like cricket that you can watch at 4 a.m. Yesterday, I'm not quite sure we had the best of it. But let's focus on Bangalore versus Mumbai for now. We will come back to what's happening in Abu Dhabi in just a little while. The toss has gone down, Sanjay. Mumbai Indians have won it. They're going to have a bowl first, and you think this is a really important game for both these two teams when it comes to the playoff spots, looking at where they stand in the points table.
Yes, strangely, RCB seemed to have lost all the momentum they had in the first half, and we saw the obvious mistakes that happened in the last game. And Mumbai Indians also, missing the form of Surya Kumar Yadav, Ishan Kishan. I think they're struggling with one of their two spinners as well. So, yeah, two heavyweights with a lot of superstars amongst their ranks. Not quite up there. It's just wonderful to see how in the second half some teams have really sort of taken their game up. Kolkata Knight Riders, for example. Chennai have been impressive so far. I don't know what's going to happen now. It looks like a difficult game. But yeah, lots
Yeah.
to sort of get things right for both RCB and Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, I mean, the loss of momentum seems to be fair for RCB. We're on a bit of a roll, Carlos, in the first leg. Mumbai Indians, even though they entered the restart in the playoff spots, we even said in the first part of the IPL, this is not quite, the best of the Mumbai Indians, but it's the Mumbai Indians. They'll figure it out. We'll see the best of them at some point. We're now reaching the now or never sort of phase. I mean, they need to win this one, you think?
Yeah, they definitely want to get a win today and try to get a bit of momentum. It seems as though Mahela Jayawardene's teams, no matter which franchise or which league it is in, he always get to these do or die games, and then his teams pick up momentum going into the back end and into the business end. And Mumbai Indians fans would hope that replicates itself today because they really need a win. They need the players to be firing. Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar Yadav need to get the runs on the ball. Sharma, see Hardik Pandya is back. He'd want to hit the ground running, and then they want all the big players to be ready for the knockout stage. It's a team filled with personalities, characters, and big game players, but you need to get to the big stage, and that's where they need to win this game today.
And well, CSK fans who've got an eye on the game against KKR have now seen that MS Dhoni, curiously coming in ahead of both Jadeja and Karan, has just played a four-ball innings and has been dismissed not for the first time by Varun Chakravarti. We'll come to that game in a bit. We have to keep an eye on it. It's a big game. But Hardik Pandya returns. Carlos makes an interesting point, and we have seen that about the Mumbai Indians, Sanjay. When you put pressure games and you put the Mumbai Indians in them, they tend to just be better than the opposition. Perhaps it works to their advantage that they've got a team in front also who is feeling the pressure, feeling the heat a bit today.
Yes, and you would think Mumbai Indians are slightly better placed because we talked about it in the first half. Mumbai Indians were nowhere close to their best. They were lucky to win a couple of games in Chennai as well, but Mumbai Indians sort of was scratchy, to use a term that we use for individuals. But despite that, they still have enough, material to provide to get into the playoff stage or be in the top four. So that's something that you expect with Mumbai Indians. Let's not forget this is a league of just 8 teams. So you just have to be in the top four better than the other half. And Mumbai Indians, despite all their problems, still have enough ability to get there. RCB, good team, but there are some obvious holes there that need to be filled with their bowling. For example, seam bowling, Kyle Jamieson might play today. And also, after Glenn Maxwell and AB de Villiers with Padikkal and Virat, who will, sort of take RCB into a stronger position.
Yeah, now we talk about team changes. Carlos Prathwaite's already indicated Hardik Pandya is indeed back. And Sanjay, if I can come to you first on this. This is a big player. He's always going to make a Mumbai Indians 11. But everyone's keeping an eye out on which Hardik Pandya shows up. He struggled with the bat in the first half. In recent times, he's not been able to complete his quota of 4 overs. There's the Indian team also keeping an eye on how Hardik Pandya goes.
Yes, and there is nothing to suggest that he'll come and suddenly find his flow because generally, when you look at all three venues, batting hasn't been easy. It's not been like, a lot of Indian grounds in the IPL will come in there and, everybody's belting sixes, and it's all a little easy for batters if you exclude Chennai from the venues. So there's nothing there for us to expect that Hardik Pandya will be up and running. But all he needs is a cameo. It could be a six-ball cameo, and
Hmm.
Hardik Pandya, if he see, he's good enough to play for India as a pure batter. So if he's fit, he is a huge bonus for Mumbai Indians.
Yeah, I mean, it's that role again, Carlos, the one you're familiar with, the one franchises go around seeking, wanting to pay big money for. I guess in turn, it also then raises the level of expectation. Hardik Pandya, big money player for the Mumbai Indians. Can he have an impact right away, though, is the question.
Yeah, I like that idea that Sanjay brings, keep him as that impact player, that cameo player. I think what he's done over the last couple seasons, he's now shown that he's more than a 30 off 20, 30 off 15 type of player. He could go on and get you 50, 60, 70, 80. And he started to show that on a consistent basis. So I think the idea changed from Hardik Pandya as the cameo player to Hardik Pandya, the batsman that has power. And I still think he's good enough to do it, but coming back from injury on surfaces that are not as true as you'd be accustomed to in India, not as easy to be fluent in your stroke play. I think it's easiest for him to go the route of batting the last 3 overs, last 4 overs. You have someone like Kyron Pollard who has come off of some cricket, who's been batting the only the number five. Um, a few more balls, let's say from 10 overs out, Pollard is more than well enough equipped to come in, soak up some pressure if need be, and then transfer that pressure on to the opposition and get the 50, 60, 70 that Hardik was doing for the last couple of seasons. So it might take a slight mindset shift until he gets back to 100% from injury and he finds his form playing some cricket.
All right. Hardik Pandya in. You resume Saurabh Tiwari out. That's just a safe assumption, even though we've not confirmed that just yet. But RCB have made three changes again. Kyle Jamieson out for the last game, back in for this one. Tim David has just one appearance in the IPL. Dan Christian, who featured in the first leg, is back in the second, so he replaces Tim David. There's also a call up for Shabazz Ahmed, who has batted up and down the order, can bowl some left arm spin, and Navdeep Saini goes out again after just one game. Sanjay, in the last game at Sharjah, you said horses for courses could be the way. What do you make of the three changes now?
Yeah, one, I am sorry on that thrilling game that's happening. I think Chennai has found a way to lose this match.
Yeah.
The struggling and Sam Curran and Jadeja out there. This is a bit like what Virat Kohli does. And when Tim David played in the last game, we were all wondering, that's interesting. Why is he playing? Saini, by all angle, didn't look like a great choice. So this happens a lot with Virat Kohli. Where I think he feels strongly about certain player and he feels that maybe he'll do the job for you. And a lot of captains have this kind of hunch, as we call it. But now, in hindsight, he feels that he didn't make the right job. But interesting again, he's got players that we didn't expect. I thought they might have Kyle Jamieson back now that they're playing in Dubai. Didn't expect Christian to be back, but I guess they're worried about the batting. As we said after AB de Villiers and Maxwell.
No Wanindu Hasaranga either. So there's two games for him. Came in with a big reputation, but out he goes. Carlos, sometimes when a team's losing, captain thinks, well, then I have to change things. Some captains don't do it. MS Dhoni is an example. Virat Kohli does change things.
But Virat changes teams even when he's winning. So I think I don't know if his horses for courses thing. I don't know if in his mind he doesn't want to become predictable with the teams that he picks. But even in Test cricket, he hardly ever goes a series without changing the team from game to game. So that could just be his way as a skipper. But personally, the amount of changes that you see in franchises that are successful are on the lesser side. And I think teams like RCB and Punjab Kings probably changed the lineup too much You need to back players. There was a reason you picked them in the draft, whether the first draft or the replacement draft, and there was a reason you picked them in the starting 11. So why cast them away after one game? They may say horses for courses, and they are there. They know better than I would. But personally, I prefer to see consistency as opposed to
Hmm.
chopping and changing. I am happy to see Dan Christian in. Had the pleasure of playing with him for Sydney Sixers. I look forward to doing it again. And he's one of those players. I played against him already, and we had a few tussles. He's one of those players that you prefer to be in your team than out of it. Um, Always up for the fight, always up for a scrap. Good old-fashioned Aussie. And I think that someone like him would react well to Virat Kohli's aggressive style of captaincy. I don't think it could be too placid um, playing under Virat, and you can see how he's embodied himself in that test team. Look how they went to Australia um, and did what they did with the spirit of Virat. I would say
Hmm.
the aggression that they fought with the youngsters. So this next crop of Indian players are coming up with that aggression, and I think Dan Christian is the perfect person to play under
Hmm.
Virat and to exercise that aggression that Virat captains with.
Hmm.
Can I
I
make a
mean, I know.
quick point, Ronak?
Yes, Sanjay.
Yeah, when a team loses a match, they've got to analyze why they lost the game. And then maybe go on to make changes. And the kind of changes that have been made is not measures that you would say are going to rectify the situation. We knew why RCB lost the last game. It was how because of the way they slowed down after 14, 15 overs, and that was really the main reason that they lost the game. And nothing has been done to really address that. So it's also about like Punjab Kings the other day, when they lost to Rajasthan Royals, they should be looking at themselves saying, there's something wrong with this team. We've got to change the combination. Horses for courses for Sharjah specifically, I think makes a lot of sense because it's a pretty unique wicket in the three venues that you have. So yeah, again, Virat Kohli's change is hard to understand, and Chennai Super Kings are back in
Hmm.
the game.
Yeah, yeah, we're going to just hold on now. It's going to Javid Jade just changed that game on his own. Let's finish talking about this one, and then we'll spend a few minutes once we've seen exactly.
Andre Russell has let KKR down because I don't think he would have bowled this 19th over. I think,
I mean, it looked like after his third over that Owen Morgan had seen that perhaps he couldn't bowl a 20th, and Venkatesh Iyer squeezed one in. Sunil Narayan, who's also not completed his quota,
but
has
he
left.
came back on, and I think
Yes.
he
Then
was
in the field
perhaps
had a
expect. Yeah,
bit of an injury in the field too, from what we saw, saving a
yeah.
boundary. But anyway, we'll come to that. Let's focus on this game for the time being. Although it's an exciting one over in Abu Dhabi. The other thing we've got to see Shahbaz Ahmed's inclusion. Sanjay, there's room for one Indian player who wants to come in. They're batting first now. Do you fancy some sort of pinch hitting in on the cards for RCB, or is it a straightforward, Padikkal, Kohli? Then let's get all our big guns in. Maxwell first, De Villiers next. Now that you've got a Dan Christian as well lower down the order.
Maybe somebody to take care of Wanindu Hasaranga's role. If Wanindu is not playing, right, is what I had learned,
That's right.
or is he
That's
playing?
No,
Yeah,
he's
so
out. He's
maybe
out.
somebody who can, yeah, he can play both roles. I think is what Virat Kohli is expecting. I find it very hard to understand these kind of changes. Kyle Jamieson hasn't come back in, right?
Jameson has Sanjay. So Jameson
Okay,
and Christian are in. Hasaranga and David are out, and Shabazz Ahmed is in
okay.
as well, and out goes Navdeep Saini. Yeah, Sanjay, please.
Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you about Shahbaz Ahmed. He bowls a bit, can
No,
be
I'm,
handy
I'm just
with.
trying to figure out how he'd be used as a batter because we've seen Bharat send up the orders, Sachin Baby. They've tried Rajat Patida to split
They've
Kohli and
got
De
to,
Villiers,
yeah.
and then De Villiers and Maxwell. So I'm just trying to understand from a batting perspective what we're expecting today. Are we just going to see De Villiers come in earlier, Maxwell come in earlier, now that you've got some cushion with Dan Christian in the middle?
Uh, See, ideally, you want to have batters in their normal positions. Virat Kohli and Devdutt Patikal gave them a great start in the last game, but the slowing down really, damaged their chances in that particular game. And when these guys came in on a difficult pitch in the last four overs, they had to sort of up the ante and get it up to 8, 10 runs and over. So if everyone sort of plays according to the needs of the team, I think the batting order can remain exactly the same. at AB de Villiers and Maxwell have to be in the top four. It would be a shame to have somebody like a youngster coming in and taking up the balls and denying people like AB de Villiers and Maxwell more opportunities there. And I think Carlos made an excellent point with Hardik, because people who are match fit who've been playing. Even Mumbai Indians, if they can have people like Pollard and everybody taking more of the responsibility and ease somebody like a Hardik Pandya in, just at the last minute, and expect him to get a cameo and get up and running instead of thrusting all the pressure. So I don't think it's a good idea to have a young player coming in and, even as a pinch hitter, doesn't make sense. So rather keep him down the order.
You think if this team, which is sort of struggling with that, you'd think, Carlos, they've had a collapse of 93, and again, they fell short in a game that they felt they could have gotten more last time. You think one of the things you can do is just say, De Villiers is one of our best players. Let's just get him out there early now, especially now that we're batting first.
Yeah, for Glenn Maxwell batted fairly early. I think about three in a couple of games. Was out there at four early in a couple of games in the first half and got a couple of good scores. So you're being paid the big bucks, and as an international player, an overseas player in a foreign franchise league, that's the pressure that you're under. And he's answered the call. There was a lot of talk about his price tag in the first half of the tournament. He answered the call. So yeah, entrust him again. Have him up the order. If they get a good start as they did last game, Maxwell 3, AB 4, Christian 5, Kyle Jameson 6, basically one after the other. It's 20 overs. The last thing you want is one of the young Indian batsmen to come in and bat 15, 20 balls and get 10 runs and break the momentum of the team. So if it is a situation where they've lost a few early wickets, then the onus is on that young Indian batsman to prove that he can handle the pressure at this level. But if things are
Yeah.
going well, you just try to push the momentum as best as you could.
Yeah, I mean, just as this game comes to an end now, still a little bit of excitement in the last over in Abu Dhabi, but we'll wrap that up in just a few minutes. RCB season has just gone off. If we just have a look at how they started versus how they've been going, they won the first four. They've now won only one out of the last five. So it's been a bit of a struggle. They're yet to win in the UAE in, I think, 7 or 8 consecutive attempts. And that's been an issue for this team, certainly. So the other problem they also have is in the UAE in particular. As you can see, they just haven't won in recent times in these parts of the world. The next thing we need to really discuss is a little contest within a contest, which is the two leg spinners on offer. You've got Rahul Chahar and Yuzvendra Chahal in the same game, and to the surprise of some at least, Chahar was the one that was picked in the Indian T20 World Cup squad of the expensive Yuzvendra Chahal, who's been a bit of a mainstay. We look at their numbers as we take this conversation forward. Sanjay, you watch them very carefully over the years. Yuzvendra Chahal's gone out of favor, whatever you want to call it. Numbers seem to go in favor of Rahul Chahar, at least for this season. What do you think made the case for Rahul Chahar ahead of Yuzvendra Chahal for the World Cup call?
Uh, Yuzvendra Chahal not at the prime of his game. We've seen a better Yuzvendra Chahal a few years back, whereas you're seeing a Rahul Chahar at the top of his game. So that is where the current scenario is. Also, the fact that Rahul Chahar is a guy who's not completely dependent on the pitch, to be effective. He's a proper leg spinner. He'll bowl the big leg spinner. He'll bowl the big googly, and he's a quicker classical leg spinner, whereas Chahal is a bit of the new kind of T20 spinner, leg spinner that you see who rolls the ball more than anything. In Sri Lanka, they were both playing white ball cricket, and Chahal looked the better of all the others that played there, including Varun Chakraborty. But there was something about Rahul Chahar who made quite an impression. So if you have a flat pitch or if you have a small ground and you want to pick a wrist spinner, you would always go for somebody like a Rahul Chahar ahead of Yuzvendra Chahal.
2 wickets for Yuzvendra Chahal so far, and none for Rahul Chahar in the restart. To compare the two types of leggies, have you seen enough of Rahul Chahar, Carlos? I know leg spin is something that you yourself have admitted isn't your forte, but you wouldn't. When you look at the two spinners, what comes to mind as to what their threats are?
I always love to hear the selectors' opinions on why someone was selected over someone else. And I think when they spoke about the reasons for picking Chahar versus Chahal, um, they mentioned the pace that he bowls at. And if that is the case, that's a fair sentiment. You want a traditional leggy that still bowls at a good pace and probably could vary his pace a little better. We all know what Chahal can do. He's done it fantastically well in the IPL and in international cricket. But as Sanjay mentioned, maybe it's a changing of the guard. Chahal not at his best, and Chahar a lot younger and at the prime of his powers. So it just could be a changing of the guard. I know personally, if I was Chahal, I would have preferred that change in the guard to be after the World Cup. But big call from the selectors. And what was most impressive was the fact that they gave an explanation that makes sense. So it'll be interesting to see how Chahar goes. There's a lot of pressure coming into a big tournament like the World Cup. Um, it's not home, but it's close enough to home that there'll be pressure on him
Yeah.
to get performances in. And you probably prefer the elder statesman in Chahal, who's been there and done it already, to be the
Hmm.
person with that pressure on his back. But it's exciting. It's a good opportunity for Chahar to really make a name for himself. The Indian fans would know what he can do from IPL, and it's now his turn to showcase his talent to the world.
Yeah, 100%. Now, let's just look at that was a decision Virat Kohli had to make. It'll be perhaps his last decision for an Indian team in the T20 format. If you look at how he goes against Rohit Sharma, who you think is the heir apparent, and maybe the next decision on which Indian T20 I side to pick would lie with Rohit Sharma along with the selectors. That is how they stack up. 16 matches, 11-5 in favor of Bangalore under Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma when these two teams have played. We will come to that game in a few minutes now, but it's time to just move our attention to Abu Dhabi. Some madness that we've seen. This is probably the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
game seen in the restart so far. We've seen a close game and a bizarre game between Punjab and Rajasthan, but in terms of quality, 170 odd being chased from what we saw yesterday. How batting was tough. Sanjay Manjrekar, some interesting things have happened. Ravindra Jadeja has almost won it for CSK in the penultimate over, and Sunil
But he's
Narayan
gone. And
done.
little things
Yes.
in the game. I mean, Sunil Narayan was bowling brilliantly. That second
Hmm.
ball that he bowled to Shardul Thakur, who tried to sweep it, and there was a bit of glove, and it went behind and went for 3 runs.
Yeah.
That really, sort of sealed the game for Chennai. They still need one out of one, which is, most likely that would happen. But
Yeah.
that was a lucky break for them because Sunil Narayan was winning them this game quite easily in that one
Yeah.
over.
I
He's
mean,
a
there were a
terrific
lot of
bowler.
these. There were a lot of these edges and gloves when Dinesh Karthik was
He's a good
batting too.
batter. Deepak Chahar is a good
There's been
batter.
some,
There you
yeah,
go.
and you've got Shardul Thakur who can also be around. Of course, he's not on strike, so we'll come to that in a second. But yeah, Carlos, this has been some game. It's ebbed and flowed. It looks like Andre Russell couldn't complete his 4 overs. I think that's also come back to perhaps hurt Owen Morgan a little bit.
Yeah, you must say it was lost in the 19th over, if we be fair. Um, I honestly wanted to, well, sorry, first I gotta apologize to KKR. It's my fault.
Yeah.
They would win.
Sanjay Carlos
Um,
made a prediction at halftime as well. So he's still in search
Made
of
a
his
made.
first win,
Oh, he's
much like
still
Mumbai
searching for
and
his first one.
Bangalore.
Okay.
Yeah,
my
yeah.
consistency
Yes,
is
Carlos.
right up there all
Yeah,
around
Yeah,
so
outstanding.
far.
people say
But
consistency,
yeah, I
Carlos.
mean,
That's all they want.
Owen Morgan, Owen Morgan led brilliantly, I thought. Um, the way that CSK started and playing proper cricket shots, it was really
Hmm.
beautiful to watch. And Owen Morgan stuck in, and it seemed as though it was a plan to have spin ball at the back end. And yes, Russell couldn't finish, but it looks as though Ayer bowled that one over that Russell would
Yeah,
have bowled. So it didn't affect the plans too much. It seemed as though they always wanted to have spin in the back end, which is a brave call. Um,
yeah,
but if you give Sunil Narayan 15 to defend as opposed to what it was 4 or 6, something like that,
yes,
um,
yes.
then is a completely different ball game. So um, Prasid Krishna has been bowling very well. Got a few wickets last season and broke into
Hmm.
the Indian team. But if we be honest, that 19th over would have lost
Yeah,
KKR the game. And you got to give credit to
Yeah.
Jadeja as well. Good
yeah.
execution with the bat. So now that's a quality cricket game. Ebbs and flows. You never knew
Hmm.
who was in front of the game for too long, and then someone took the initiative from them. So congrats to CSK, and that's why you wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning to watch those kind of games.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Ravindra Jadeja. Sanjay, I'm sure you'll enjoy this. But here is a man really. at the top of his game? You think his value in Indian cricket hasn't been higher? Virat Kohli trusts him in the Test team. He's found a place in the T20 World Cup squad as well. And every now and then, these sorts of cameos show us of what he is capable of.
Yes, and bowled his 4 overs today economically too. But you know my views on Jadeja, so I'm not suddenly going to be saying, wow, he's a great T20 bowler, 50 overs bowler. That's not going to happen. But today, as I said, length ball from Prasidh Krishna, and if it was Andre Russell, he would have given something more difficult for Jadeja to score off. Having said that, it is never easy to come in and knowing that you've just got 5 or 6 balls to face and it's going to be a matter of life and death, win or loss, and to come in and strike the ball like he did. I think 3 sixes in that very small cameo shows a lot of self-confidence, a sturdy temperament. And let's not forget, his bowled his 4 overs. This is the second time on the trot that he's completed his 4 overs. So as a bowler, if he's adding value like this, then it makes a lot of sense to have Jadeja in the team because these kind of cameos that we saw today. What a game. You had
Yeah,
Dhoni come in and he may have just played 4 balls, but he just got 1 run that got KKR back in the game. So this is the
sure.
beauty of T20 cricket. All of a sudden, you have these kind of nervous moments like we had the other day with Punjab Kings, messing up that run chase as well. I mean, when they batted first and didn't get enough runs on the board. We've seen some bizarre endings. So all wonderful, great to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And not a great day for both captains with the bat. Owen Morgan, 8 of 14. MS Dhoni, 1 of 4 in a game that was close. Every ball you think towards the end would make a difference. Let's talk about Morgan's decision making, though. Carlos, you make the point. We have seen the records and the numbers. Spin, Narayan, and Varun against Dhoni. Against that middle order could have been something that was a preconceived plan or notion. But there was also a conscious effort to bowl the seam at Moeen Ali when he was batting. Earlier on. Lockie Ferguson finished, I think, 16th. I'll just check that once, but yeah, I think 16th is where Lockie Ferguson finished. Then you also, you chose to finish him off earlier and have Prasidh Krishna to bowl the 19th. Do you think somewhere that you still think that was a sound call, or would you have gone differently?
I reckon that if things had played out the way they wanted it to, Krishna would have bowled that over and Lockie Ferguson bowled at the death. But it was probably a gamble to try to get another wicket. I think at that point in time, Suresh Raina was in, um, and Moeen Ali,
Mm.
or Moeen Ali had just got out, something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it was a gamble against two players that are less comfortable against high quality fast bowling. Lockie Ferguson is a high quality fast bowler. Um, and you wanted to break that partnership. You want that as the game goes down and gets closer to the 20th over, that not much players are in that would have batted a lot of balls. You want to keep, you talk about as a batting team, get building partnerships. As a bowling team, you want to prevent partnerships from building. So taking crucial wickets, not letting the batting team have momentum. And I think that was what he tried. And sometimes you try things and they come off, sometimes you try things and they don't. You look at the Venkatesh Iyer over. I think everyone
yeah.
raised eyebrows. The commentators didn't even know he used to bowl, and he came and bowled a quality over. And even in that situation, not bowling him again was another good call. A lot of captains would have gotten emotional and think, oh crap, we gone for 4. I can bowl him another over, hopefully go for 6 or 7. But that wasn't part of the plan. Your role was to bowl 1 over. You bowled it well, thank you, pat on the back, and we move on. So within his tactics today, there was a lot of good things that I saw happen. As a captain, you really can't bargain for a 19 or 20 run over
Yeah,
in the 19th over.
yeah,
But other than that, I think everything else was sound.
yeah. I mean,
Can I make a
26.
quick comment,
Yes.
Ronak? I'm sorry, you may have a question, but it's a very important
Sure,
point because we
Sanjay.
had a run order on, who could replace Virat Kohli as captain at RCB. And this is what I want in T20 cricket, where you have a captain who, even if he doesn't get runs or wickets, makes these kind of calls. And we saw one today where he had an over of Varun Chakrabarti for the last half. He bowled the 18th, and Sunil Narayan bowled the 20th, which was brilliant captaincy. And even against Mumbai Indians, if you remember, when Rohit Sharma was opening the innings and Quinton de Kock, they bowled 7 overs of spin of the
Hmm.
first 10. So
Yes.
this is what makes a good captain, and not because somebody is an incumbent. I see a lot of chatter about KL Rahul, Shreyas Iyer, Sanju Samson, because they're already captains. They are sort of looked at as future captains of other
Hmm.
franchises. I think, like you judge a player's performance with bat and ball. You judge a captain's performance on captaincy, actual captaincy on the field.
Yeah, it's a very pertinent point. Absolutely. And you could say now Mohan Morgan managed to pull this game back. They needed 26 of 12. We've seen batting has been hard, and unfortunately, Prasidh Krishna has given 22 of his 19th. We also had one conversation earlier before the game, Sanjay, about, you look at that KKR bowling lineup, and if they're all on song, Prasidh Krishna has bowled brilliantly already in the restart. He got Kohli with a beauty the other day. You got Lockie Ferguson, who's got his tail up. Russell seems to be the bowler that he was. Narayan and Varun Chakravarti. So whether they or the Delhi Capitals would be, the best bowling attack. But today we've seen one thing: the death bowling. Prasidh Krishna, as good a bowler as he is, that's perhaps one thing, the hardest thing that he needs to master still.
Yes, and it's happened once. Even in this season, there's been an over. I don't remember which particular game, maybe the last game where there was one big over. So he's one of those guys who is not consistently tight. He's a good bowler. He's got everything, that you expect. He can bowl at 140 kilometers per hour, but has a tendency of going for runs like Trent Bolt. One over suddenly he'll go for runs. So Kolkata Knight Riders looking really good, and as long as Tripathi and Venkatesh Iyer are, getting those runs at the top, it's looking even better. So great to see this, resurgence of KKR in the second half.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, it's their good fortune has come to an end, the Kolkata Knight Riders, but it's not like it's all doom and gloom. They're still alive, in position for a playoff spot. They've done most things right. So let's see how the Bangalore Mumbai game goes, and then the points table will look, quite decisive, or at least you'll get an idea of where it's going as we enter the last week or so of the league phase. Thank you very much, Sanjay Manjrekar, Carlos Brathwaite. Let's pick up the chat at halftime between Bangalore and Mumbai. So do join us then on Maruti Suzuki Presents ESPN Cricket for T20 Timeout.
We call it people technology.